Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another REHI podcast episode. Today, I have a personal friend, Robert, as a guest. He comes from Israel. He's actually an Estonian diplomat and a consul in Israel, in Tel Aviv. Welcome.
Thanks, Arthur. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
And you bought wine.
Yes, it's actually REHI. It's a famous brand in Israel. It's straight from there as a gift to your podcast, and this is something we're drinking today. It's from the northern side of Israel, and it's been part of our events at the embassy for quite a while now. So it's a very known wine for Estonian diplomats who've been serving in Israel too.
Go-to drink, basically.
Go-to drink, yes. This is something we always buy when we
Gotta say, it tastes really good.
It is, yeah. It's really good, actually. The grapes, the Syrah grapes, they actually originate from France, as far as I'm aware, and now they're kind of growing them in Israel as well. But it's typical because, well, Jews originate from different parts of the world, and those Ashkenazis who came from Europe, of course, they brought some of their own traditions too.
So I want to say this out loud, right? I'm pro-Israel, very publicly. I cannot even be ashamed of it or to think anything about it. But you, as a diplomat, you just mentioned that you cannot publicly have any opinions.
Good for you. Good for you.
Good for me, yeah.
It's because,
but not for you.
Well, as I mentioned to you as well, it's not our job. It's not something we've been paid for. We are there to observe the situation. We're there to report. We're basically eyes and ears of Estonia in the country. Regardless of the mission, how big it is, how small it is, this is our job. Our job is to see the bigger picture, to see what's going on there, and to report as objectively as we can. Because based on what we say, based on what we do there, and based on what we report, it kind of influences as well the policy making too in our country. Because, well, there's no better source to get information from than the meetings that we have on the ground, that the people we meet on the ground, then the events we attend on the ground. So this is we are trying to get as much information as possible, and then either digest it and then serve it to the ministry, or to serve it in a raw form, and then the ministry digests it itself.
So basically, your diplomatic and official opinions have to come with your information, going to the ministry, and then coming back. And then you can say that. It's not that you make up your mind.
Well, it's two ways. In some embassies, it works like that the headquarters has a bigger say in something we do. In some embassies, we as diplomats can influence a lot what we do and what we see, and how we report and what we report about. It really depends on how priority country this is for Estonia. For example, I'm pretty sure that in Russia, in the US, and in other countries that are important to Estonia for our security, our cooperation, we get a lot of instructions from the capital what to do and what to pursue and what kind of topics to address. In some more remote countries, including Israel, we have a lot of say on the ground what to do and what kind of topics to focus on, and to find something that might benefit our common relations between Israel and Estonia on the ground. So this is very difficult from the capital's perspective to address, because, well, they don't usually know exactly the whole picture that we are facing there. So this is something where we have a say as diplomats on the ground, where we can say, okay, this is something going on now, new trends, new policies being developed, new developments in general. In Israel now it's war-wise developments, and then the capital decides what to do or what to recommend to do, and so on.
How is working in Israel? You mentioned a few times to me that you have an insane amount of official holidays. Israeli holidays, Estonian holidays, everything mixed up, and you get like 2 months free from the work.
It is, yeah. It's very funny because Israel is one of these countries where they rest they have holidays almost every month, which is insane, considering that Estonia is one of the least European country that in terms of numbers of holidays and the days off that we get per year. We work. I guess we're one of the most hardworking countries in that sense. That we have like the least holidays. But Israel is exactly the opposite, that they have, I've been counting this, and they have around 30 to 40 days off every year.
Just for holidays?
Just for holidays, yeah, just for mostly religious holidays. There are a few non-religious holidays. It's the Independence Day, but all the other holidays are all based on the Jewish calendar. So, considering that we as diplomats also get 35 days off every year, it equates to almost 2 months of work. But of course, it's a joke because I wish we had so much free time, but we still try because we have a lot of work to do. It's like a roller coaster sometimes. Sometimes we have more work, sometimes we have less. So we try to, even though we have Jewish holidays, we still do home office, because Fridays we have Shabbat. It's a very Israeli thing to do. It's from sunset to sunset, from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset. They celebrate Shabbat, which is basically the time when they gather with the families. They have family dinners. They call Shabbat dinner, and then basically nothing works. No trains, no buses, public transportation doesn't work at all. All the shops are closed, everything's closed, so people basically go to the beach, they just have fun and enjoy their free time. But for us Europeans, it's very difficult because we are used to, perceiving Saturday as a day when you can do all your chores and and go shopping and do everything, and then Sunday is the day when we rest. But considering that we have Shabbat, it also means that our work day is shorter, so we finish around 2 to 3 o'clock. So basically, because we finish earlier on Friday, we then try to work extra hours on holidays. But in general sense, I mean, it's not that good presumption, because our days are not from 9 to 5 like typical office workers, because we also have events, we have receptions that we have to attend, we have a lot of gatherings, socials that we have to be at, because, well, quite often, because we're just 2 diplomats, it's ambassador and me, there's no one else to send there. And when our allies, our friends from Europe, from all over the world, they celebrate their Independence Days, Constitution Days, it's weird, to say the least, that Estonian diplomats wouldn't be there, to celebrate with them.
So there's only 2 of us, and there's a huge amount of European allies who have embassies in Tel Aviv, for example, and every week one of them has Independence Day. You gotta go.
Every week it's rather the UN thing, because in UN I've been a human rights diplomat before being posted to Israel, and I had the pleasure of visiting our Geneva colleagues and New York colleagues, and well, they've been telling me stories that every day, basically every week, they have like around 5 to 6 receptions, and it's just a lot, because we have 94 countries. Part of the unofficial ones, then also non-officials, celebrating different sorts of holidays for themselves. But in Israel it's a bit less, because now as well we are in times of war. So for the last 8 months and more, almost 9 months now, we are facing the pretty difficult situation there. So it's in the beginning of the war, in the first months, we had no events whatsoever, like no socials, no receptions, nothing. No wine drinking, no alcohol at all served at the receptions, because it was considered bad tone, because of the hostages and the people suffering, and also the 1,200 people killed as part of the attack initiated by Hamas on the 7th of October. But now we're slowly returning back to normality, and we have more and more embassies organizing their receptions. Actually, by the way, it's an interesting thing that the Estonian embassy was one of the first, if not the first, embassy to have their reception dedicated to the national holiday, which was our Independence Day on the 24th of February. So we were the first embassy, as far as we know, at least among our friends and allies, to organize the reception for everyone to attend and to kind of come together, which was 4 or 5 months after the war. It was very difficult, because Japanese, they also have their public holiday around the same time as we do, the end of February, the beginning of March.
Damn so Japanese.
But that's interesting, because we were communicating both of the embassies, and they were asking us if we're considering doing something. So for a long time we were debating if we should do it or not, because no embassies have done anything before us. And then we decided, okay, we're going to do that, but we do it in a different format. So our format was like this. We brought together guests from all over the embassies and officials, politicians, members of Knesset, so on and so forth. We put them in the cooking studio, which fitted around 120 people. Each got their desk, with cooking equipment, knives and everything. And so we basically made all the ambassadors, politicians, Knesset members chop onions, potatoes and everything, and basically cook dinner, the first, second, third course, and so on. And after we did this, after they all took part in the preparations in the cooking show for us, we donated this food. 1/3 went to the Ukrainian refugees, around 10,000 of them in Israel, and 2/3 of the food that we prepared went to the displaced Israeli people, who at the time were 60, 70,000.
I gotta make this horrible joke, honestly. Like ambassadors who almost never cook for themselves because they have people to do it for them, or their wives, they cook for the first time. It comes out horribly, and you decide to turn this bioweapon into a donation for people.
Well, luckily we had 6 chefs working with us, each one chef per 20 participants. So of course they observed everything, that everything was done according to the plan. But of course that was the whole point of the event, that we bring together people who typically don't find themselves in this situation, cooking, preparing something, doing something very practical at the reception, because reception in general is a wine drinking event. It's the event when you socialize. It's the event where you make connections. It's the event where you try to mingle, advance some new ideas, gather some information from different friends and allies, and so on. But this was out of the box idea. This was something that we've tried for the first time. And it was very successful, actually. People liked it. We saw a lot of ambassadors engaging physically themselves. Actually, I remember Polish chargé and some other friends of ours, and also the head of protocol of Israel. They were like the most engaged because, as people already finished cooking and they went socializing, chatting, talking, because it's the thing they love the most as diplomats. But they were there, observing everything. They gathered in a circle with other chefs, making sure that the pasta was cooked correctly, that everything's done well.
You're saying it's the Polish, right? Because this is, I wouldn't have guessed that I would call like Ordnung, it's German thing, but actually it's Polish, because every time we go to Ukraine, the Polish border guards are the worst. They follow every damn rule, everything, and you say the cooks are the ambassadors are the same, so maybe it's...
Well, they're definitely making it back in Israel. But they don't have ambassador yet. They do have chargé, but it's just a matter of formality.
What's the chargé?
Chargé is the one who is substituting the ambassador, basically.
Oh.
It's someone, when the ambassador is away, then chargé is taking over. At the embassy, is basically performing in a role of ambassador. So because there should be a head of the embassy, at least the de facto head of the embassy. After I finish my vacation, actually, on 10th of July, I'm going to be chargé myself for a month, because our ambassador is going to be on vacation himself.
Congratulations, that's a level up, right?
That's a level up. I'm not sure if I'm happy about that, because we're still waiting for the second front to be opened in the north. but thanks. It's going to be an interesting times.
Yeah, talking about the second front, though, you were supposed to be deployed into Israel right around the 7th of October. Like at the same time.
Around the same time.
Yeah.
I was deployed there 2 months before that. Our rotation in the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs takes place on the 1st of August. This is the day when the whole system rotates at once. So from the 1st of August, whoever has applied to different postings in New York, in Australia, in Canada, in Europe, Middle East, Central Asia, wherever, all the people assume their position on the 1st of August. So this is the time that's the most difficult for the IT people, for the people involved in the internal security, because we have to change the permission stuff, give permissions, erase some permissions from people, rearrange the stuff. Also give permissions to their cards that we have, so they can access the embassy's keys and stuff like that. So it's a very difficult time, very nervous time, very intense time. But this is as it is, yeah. Different countries have their own kind of rotation. Ours is in August. So I was supposed to assume posting, knowing that what's waiting for me is protests, because they were engaged in judicial reform for quite a while already, because they have a very conservative, the most conservative government that Israel has had since its beginning. But that's all. So basically, I was prepared to work on consular affairs, work on some political affairs, but mostly develop business relations between Israel and between Estonia. So because we see that there is a lot of potential between Israel, between Estonia, Israel as the country that has the most startups per capita. This is something that we get wrong quite a lot, Estonians.
Startups versus unicorns, right?
Yes, but we also love to say that we have a lot of startups the most startups per capita. So I was there, I was using this speaking point in the beginning, but then I was pretty quick to realize that, okay, I'm wrong, because they started correcting me, saying, no, sorry, but we have the most startups per capita in the world.
We have the most unicorns, right?
We have the most unicorns in the world, but we have the most startups per capita in Europe. This for sure. But anyway, so we were thinking that we can work together, we can bring our economies together, we can do more in terms of business, in terms of economy. But then, of course, 2 months in...
August, September, and then October.
Yes. So 2 months after I my first posting, the very first posting in my life as a diplomat, having just over 1 year of experience in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is also possible only in a small country.
Let's just take this up for the audience. 1 year in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, immediately deployed to Israel, and 2 months in, what happens?
War. 1,200 people killed. Yes. Well, that's what happens. When you're a diplomat, you have to be prepared for everything. So I didn't.
Were you prepared?
I wasn't prepared for that, but I was prepared that Israel is gonna be a very tough posting in the first place. This is something that people prepared and told me beforehand. That definitely Israel is one of the most postings that we might have at the moment in our ministry, except for Ukraine and for some other countries. But I didn't know that it's going to be that difficult or that different. I mean, I had an option of going to Astana, going to Bucharest, Budapest, to other countries, but Tel Aviv was my deliberate choice because I was prepared for going somewhere more challenging. And doing some more challenging posting than sitting somewhere and just having a rest.
So we both have been under missile attacks. Actually, you more than me. What is the closest encounter with Hamas missiles you have had?
I haven't had direct encounters with their missiles. This is actually something that I've been also telling you, that compared to Ukraine, Israel is not. Israel is difficult in other sense. In Ukraine, I mean, the air defense is not that strong because Israel is a small country. It's 2 times smaller than Estonia by land, and 9 million people, 1.3 million people here, so very crowded. But their Iron Dome is working really well. So all the attacks that they had, all the rockets that have been fired from Hamas, most of them been shut down on time. So the main danger that people have living in Israel is being a victim of shrapnel or the remains of the rockets that were fired either from north or from the south. And this is how many people got injured. Of course, we also had some deaths, but it's a relatively small number compared to Ukraine, for example, which have been suffering under rocket shelling for years now. So their air defense is a bit different than Israel one. So if you go to Ukraine and you have a rocket attack there, then I would say it's way more dangerous and way more imminent than in Israel. Because in Israel, we've been having rocket attacks since the October attacks happened, but the first 3-4 months were the most difficult ones, where we used to run to shelters almost 2-3 times per day. But again, nothing happened. I mean, all the rockets got shut down. I even made some videos as well, walking on the balcony, just waiting until the Iron Dome does it work. I mean, I know we can't do that. It's prohibited, and Israelis are really angry when I've been telling the story to them. But for the sake of archive, for the sake of personal memories, I've been doing this. So I've been made.
Why do they get angry if you watch the rockets?
Because they are really cautious and they are really punctual about the security norms and security guidelines that they have there. So every Israeli knows how to behave in a situation like that. So whenever you have a rocket attack, then the radar detects the rocket, and then you have around 45 to 1 minute, mostly 45 to 40 seconds, to run to the shelter. So the sirens start like 45 or 40 seconds before the Iron Dome engages the rockets. So you have around that 45 seconds to run, and every Israeli knows that, and every Israeli does that. So there is I haven't seen any Israeli who just neglects the siren or does nothing, because the worst thing you can do is to stay outside. The best thing you can do is to be in the shelter, and the so thing you can do is to stay somewhere on the balcony. So kind of protected, but kind of not.
It's so weird because in Ukraine, first of all, you get everybody has the phone, so everyone's phone in the street goes off, and the Counter-Strike voice says you are the last one and only, and may the force be with you on the phones, and the nuclear force alarm, and then nobody reacts, nobody goes anywhere. People are so apathetic to it. Nobody moves to the shelter. And secondly, you have 2 more hours because they fly from Crimea or from Black Sea. 2 hours it flies. Maybe it's shut down, maybe not. If it arrives 2 hours later, you don't want to be sitting in the shelter for 2 hours. So nobody reacts. It's so different.
I've seen these videos as well, and I've been talking to people who've been facing the same situation. But the difference with the Israeli defense system is that the Israeli defense system and the whole Iron Dome is very precise. First of all, it reacts only because when the rockets are fired from north or from the south, then the radar detects and calculates the trajectory of the rocket. So basically, the Iron Dome system knows already where the rocket might potentially land. And then it triggers the alarm only because every Israeli also have the Tzofar app. It's called in Israel, the app that also notifies you of the siren and of the missile attack. So first of all, the app sends the alarm to those people who are in that precise location. So for example, if the rocket is fired towards the north in Israel, it's around the Israel is divided into north, central and south part. Southern part with Jaffa. The northern part is quite a small area. So all the people living in that area or being located in that area at the moment, they get the notification, and also the sirens start working only in this particular area where the rockets are expected to land. So we get alarms, we get notifications if you open your app of rocket fire in the north every day. I mean, I still get them like on a daily basis. I also get SMS notifications, the crisis SMS that also notifies that, some UAVs were launched, over the border, some rockets were launched like that. But my app doesn't trigger the alarm because I am in Tel Aviv, or I am in Jerusalem, or I am in South. So we know that the rockets were fired, but only the northern people who live in the north, only they get the notification, only they run to the shelter. So it's a very smart system in this sense, and that's why people obey it, and that's why people take it seriously. And also, because Israel is very small and Gaza is like 60 kilometers from Tel Aviv, where I live. The closest I've been was 5 kilometers, but it's 60 kilometers every day. So it's like from Tartu to Valga, like my hometown. But that's the reason why people obey it and why people take it seriously, because you only get 45 seconds to 40 seconds until the rockets get engaged. So it's a very serious thing. You don't have like 2 hours before they actually reach you. But this is also the reason why Ukraine has been interested in buying Iron Dome, in developing Iron Dome. They actually are negotiating at the moment with Israel, as far as I know, of buying this system and installing it over at least larger cities, because Ukraine is also huge. It's enormous compared to Israel. It's many tens times bigger than Israel itself. So they can't potentially cover the whole territory, but at least they can cover bigger cities like Kiev or Kharkiv or Lviv.
Honestly, looking at the price of Iron Dome, looking at Ukrainian monetary situation, there's no way. I mean, Kiev and Kharkiv, that's it. I don't think anything else is possible. When we talk about Iron Dome, it's the most expensive air defense in the world, and it's the most effective air defense in the world. But you got to have the money.
It is, yeah, it is. I'm being lucky to see it in practice how it works, and I can tell it's definitely worth it. It makes life so much easier, and since the October attacks, only a few rockets have been able to penetrate the system. So almost all the rockets that have been fired, including the recent attack from Iran, were all around 300 rockets got fired, also ballistic missiles.
That was a huge failure for Iran.
Well, partly because Israel wasn't working alone. Israel also had their allies, their partners. Let's say, let's be correct with the terms, who were also interested in intercepting the missiles. That's what
allies who about 40 years ago went to war against Israel, right? It's so strange with their story.
That's what we call Middle East. Middle East is a very unpredictable region. It's a very difficult region, but we believe, as diplomats, of course, we're always optimistic about developments in the world. We believe that looking at the situation, looking at how, just one example, how the countries engaged in the attack from Iran, this is possible. It's possible to cooperate, and we know that there's been cooperation in intel sphere, in the sphere of intel-wise, when the Iranians attacked with the rockets. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Israel, they all engaged them, and they all communicated and exchanged information between each other. And that's why they were able to efficiently tackle the rockets and also shut down most of them already over the territory of Jordan, and some already over the territory of Saudi Arabia. So almost nothing actually reached this space of the airspace of Israel. So this is a prime example of how the cooperation might work, the future cooperation in the Middle East.
I remember Iran and Russia, Ukraine is all connected, so I remember covering this, and this was supposed to be like the response from Iran to Israel as a payback, as a show of force, and it was almost nullified before it went to Israel. So it was like a huge kick in the face, basically, to Putin's main ally also in this war.
Yes, I remember this. There was a huge... it was interesting times because Iran announced their plans for retaliation for quite a week before that, I guess, a week before the attack. So that was kind of...
they wanted media around it.
That was a known fact that they will do something, but no one knew exactly what they're going to do. We even had some meetings, I remember, that we were able even to gather some information from Israeli authorities, asking, okay, what do you think is going to be the retaliation? No one knew exactly. So no one knew exactly what's going to be the response. But Iran, because US was pretty harsh with their... communication towards Iran, saying that they will not tolerate the second front line or the second front or the new war and the regional war escalation, that they will face another retaliation from the US side and from the Israeli side. They calculated their response quite well. This is something we saw. So I wouldn't say that they used all the power they had at the moment in Iran. But as well, I would say that as far as we know, they expected the retaliation attack to be a bit stronger. So there is reasonable grounds to believe that they didn't expect other Arab countries to engage together with Israel to tackle the attack. And Israeli response to be that strong to the missiles. So they expected some missiles still to land in Israel and to do some damage. But the fact is they actually targeted the military infrastructure. This is true. This is something that Israel also confirmed to us. So they didn't actually target any cities, any rural areas. They actually targeted military base in Israel.
Middle Eastern politics is insanely complicated. We have Saudi Arabia, whose main rival is Iran, and Saudi Arabia, whose main rival is also Israel in a way, or are they formally allies now? Then there's Jordan and Egypt. Egypt having like insane internal difficulties and political struggles, also with the border with Hamas, basically in the Gaza. How do you survive in that? You have to make up your mind as an Estonian citizen representing an Estonian interest. How do you make up your mind there?
Well, I would lie to you if I say that it's easy. It's definitely complicated. It's way more complicated than Ukrainian and Russian politics for us.
It's very black and white there.
This is definitely black and white.
Compared to Israel.
Yes, we know who attacked, we know when someone attacked. We know why Russia did this, what's the motives, who is the victim and who is the attacker, like the perpetrator. In the case of Middle East, particularly the recent escalation between Hamas and Israel, and the Palestinians being the victims of this, it's very difficult to see it's very difficult to take sides in this whole conflict, because both sides have been suffering quite a lot. It's a very difficult region to work in, and the politics between different countries, the international relations there is a subject of a study on its own. People do dissertations, people dedicate their whole lives to understand the Middle Eastern politics. And well, there have been some positive developments. Israel was quite lucky and quite successful in reaching peace deals with with different countries around there in the past, after the wars. For example, with Jordan, with Egypt, they have peace treaties, and we can see that neither country is interested in breaking these peace treaties, despite.
I mean, honestly, they were kind of forced, because 2 wars they lost. The Arab coalition, with numerical and technical superiority, lost to Israeli forces. So they were just beaten with brute force.
Well, we can say, regardless of how the war ended, what we can see now is that working together is possible. Despite politics, of course, despite the fact that, different neighboring countries of Israel take the issue of Gaza very seriously, and they are very emotional about this and very supportive towards the Palestinian cause. They're still able to work together, at least on a practical level. I mean, they still do the trade, they still exchange their intel, they still do some security cooperation. So it's possible, despite the fact that just some decades ago they were enemies. And now, of course, before the 7th of October, Saudi Arabia and Israel were also moving closer together in the framework of Abraham Accords. But of course, that got a bit jeopardized after the attack, and that was also part of the reason why the attack happened in the first place. Because, there are some forces, proxies from Iran, supported by Iran, that are not that interested in the regional kind of cooperation, because this regional cooperation also entails that, or is built partly upon being standing against Iran in the region, because Saudi Arabia and many other countries are also interested in the fact that Iran would not be able to threaten neighboring countries with the potential their nuclear research and potential weapon, with the ballistic missiles that they have. So many countries are interested in a peaceful coexistence together.
Would it be too primitive to say that Iran is like the Russia of the Middle East? That nobody wants it as a neighbor, everybody wants to unite against it?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's Russia of the Middle East, just because Russian imperialist policy is a bit of it has some historic reference. Russia operates in the imperial sense of view. Iran just tries to maintain itself as a regional power and kind of tries to upkeep it. Russia tries to restore the former glory that they had. So it's this part is a bit different. But in general sense, it would be, in my personal opinion, again, I'm not representing the opinion of the ministry or Estonia, but in my personal opinion, of course, there is an axis of evil that is facing or standing against the democratic countries that we have in the West. And of course, this axis of evil includes Iran, includes Russia, also the proxies of Iran. So there are forces that are interested in destabilizing the regional kind of regional structure of peace, or the regional kind of Abraham Accords that we are developing, but also the framework in which we live in Europe, also the peaceful framework, also the NATO framework. So in this sense, of course, Iran and Russia are working together, and this is without a doubt, because as far as we know, Russia is testing and using the Iranian technology in Ukraine, the drones, Shahed ones. The same Shahed drones or Shahed-based drones are being developed somewhere in Syria or in Lebanon, we don't know yet, and also used by Hezbollah against Israel. And this is something we see actually in the past several months, that the usage of drones by Hezbollah has been increased sharply. And Israel is struggling with this a lot, because they're flying low They remain undetected for quite a while, and also they're cheap. So taking down the drones by Israel requires more expensive technology, more expensive rockets, and counter weapons than the cost of drones themselves. And also they can send out a lot of drones in huge quantities. Just recently, I guess they killed a senior figure of Hezbollah, and then they launched around 19 rockets. But then they can also launch several tens of drones at the same time. And these drones have been reaching the targets in the north, outside the evacuated zone, where 60,000 of Israelis have been evacuated. They're flying deeper and deeper into the territory. And since the beginning of war, I guess around 19 people have been killed already in the north, which for Israeli, I mean, it might sound not that much compared to Ukrainian souls that died there, but for Israel that's used to, retaliating and protecting its citizens as much as they can. That's a lot. I mean, because even though they already evacuated people from the north, still 19 people has already died, and also I guess around 20 or 30 have been wounded by the drones. So this is something that is causing a lot of headache for Israel, and this is coming back to your question or your statement, proves that the difficulty, the danger that we are facing, and the enemy that we are facing is basically the same in Ukraine and the same in Israel. And this is something we're trying to show to Israel as well. To Israel, that unfortunately doesn't do as much as we would love them to do for Ukraine, military-wise. Of course, humanitarian support-wise, they are engaged, but we would also love them as a power that has a very strong military, that has a military with war experience now. We would love them as well to do more for Ukraine. But this is something we've been working on to explain to them that the axis of evil we are facing, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, Russia, it's all the same. And we have to work together because it's all the same front line that runs from the north to the Middle East.
Why do you think Israel is, I cannot say against, but why do you think they haven't been more interested in supporting Ukraine? Do you think they really don't connect the dots? Because in my eyes, Russia and Iran are as much as allies. If you take one out, the other one couldn't fight as well. So for Israel, in my eyes, to support Ukraine is to fight against Iran.
Well, officially, again, my personal point of view, and what I've been hearing is an official version is that Russia is present in Syria, and Israel is is conducting air raids in Syria. They're fighting terrorists there, so they are interested in keeping the relations okay-ish with Russia, so that they can be engaged in Syria freely without the interference of Russia. This is the official version. Unofficial version, my personal opinion already, is that as another country would probably do when they have a war in their neighborhood, I would say that they are not interested in fighting on several front lines. They just try to kind of abstract themselves from the issue of Russia and Ukraine and focus on the situation in Gaza. Some of the people that we've met and been talking to have said that, okay, we will get back to Ukraine as soon as our war will end, our war with Hamas. But 8 months in war, I mean, unfortunately, we don't see that the war will end that soon. Because after the Hamas and after Gaza, we're also having questions in the north. What to do with Hezbollah? What to do with the fact that tens of thousands of Israelis are still evacuated? What to do with the fact that Hezbollah is getting stronger and stronger and are able to penetrate the territory that is not yet evacuated in the north? So how to establish the sense of security among people? Even if you do the deal with Hezbollah in the north, how to persuade people there that Hezbollah will not do the same as Hamas did on the 7th of October, the surprise attack.
Basically, how to make people feel safe, right?
How to make people feel safe, yes. This is a question that's often neglected in the debate as well. When we're talking about, IDF withdrawing from Gaza, IDF doing a lot of damage in Gaza, collateral damage, which has plausible grounds. But the sense of security is really important for Israelis. And this sense of security has been shattered since 7th of October. People don't feel secure, neither in the south nor in north. And how to establish the sense of security is the biggest problem of this government and also the future government as well. It's not just the problem of Bibi Netanyahu. There could be any other prime minister there, any other government, more liberal government, more conservative government, but the problem would be the same. How to establish the sense of security after what happened on the 7th of October in the north and in the south. So they're trying to focus on this issue now. So I understand to some extent that they are facing very difficult, tough situation there and tough questions to resolve. But again, we are trying to push the narrative and try to explain to them that this is the war that we are facing together. This is the same enemy. We destroy more Russian equipment. We destroy more drones sent by Iran. We also weaken Iran with this because Iran has to send more and more supplies to Russia then, which means that it's less supplies to Hezbollah. We destroy more equipment by Hezbollah. Again, we also weaken Russia and Iran with this because, well, less equipment is going to be sent to Russia. So this is interconnected, and that's something we're trying to show. But unfortunately, there's more work than we can do in this regard.
The Israelis are exceptionally smart about this. I mean, opening two fronts. Obviously, if you connect this issue with not helping Ukraine as much to connecting two fronts, then yes, any educated military man would not do it, because opening two fronts, I mean, if you're not Hitler, then you don't want to do it because you will lose. That's how it is. In Israel, the same thing to Israel, it's dividing the resources. Mm-hmm. So it gives a good answer. And also it's very heroic still, as you as an Estonian diplomat, to still try to persuade them to do it.
But that's something we do for ourselves, we do for Ukrainians. I mean, this is in our own interest as well, because our own security depends on the war in Ukraine and against Ukraine. So if the war is lost, then it's very bad news for all of us.
I mean, today I covered in a video, looked at a few satellite imagery, and mostly we talk about Estonia and Latvia, how these borders are empty because Pihkva assigned üksused in Estonia, which is like the Pskov airborne troops in Russia. They don't exist. They just don't exist anymore. They're all dead. That's the reality. But now Finnish military bases, I mean, the Russian military base is close to Finnish border, which is now a NATO border. 80% of those troops have entered Ukraine. The bases are empty. There's nothing there.
This is something we've been trying to say to people as well, because I've been receiving a lot of questions in Israel as well, well, is it safe in Estonia? Because the more distant you are from Estonia, the less you know about the security situation. The more you see the broader picture. On the broader map, Estonia is right next to Russia. That's it. That's all people see sometimes, and some of them don't even know that we're part of NATO or even the European Union, because it's a very distant region for Middle Eastern people. But this is something we've been telling to people to calm them down. That Russia has never been as weak in terms of facing off NATO as it is now. So the attack, is it likely that Russia will attack NATO or try to attack Baltic states or Poland or Romania or Finland? No, it's very unlikely, at least in my opinion, because as you said yourself, I mean, Russia is really weakened and it's completely busy now in Ukraine. However, in a few years' time, of course, they predict that Russia will be able to restore its capacity. Again, it's very likely that this whole capacity will once again go to Ukraine, because Ukraine is now a priority for Russia. But is it possible that they're going to do some provocations on the border, that they're going to provoke us, try the boundaries of NATO, how far are we going to go? This is more likely. This is something I would also say that in 5 years' time, is there going to be a war? No, probably not. Is there going to be any provocations by Russia at the border, like they did at the border between Belarus and Poland? Maybe. And they also tried this at the border between Finland and Russia. So this is likely. I mean, even now, there are huge crowds gathering in Narva because people are trying to cross borders. Our border guards, try to get through people as quickly as possible, 150 people per hour. But then again, they get stuck somewhere in Russia. So this is also part of the provocations and part of the means of operation, how they work.
I gotta ask the truth. People ask me the same way. I mean, I'm the only Estonian some people know. They ask, okay, you're living in Estonia. Are you going to the front very soon? I'm like, what are you talking about? In today's video, I mentioned 87% of our people trust the police. It's so trustworthy. I don't carry my gun. It's European Union. It's NATO. You don't even it's the safest country in the world right now, I would say. People think, okay, there's gonna be shells falling any day now. How many? I gotta say this. I think you can say this. How many apartments do you own in Estonia? Real estate. It's 30 years plan real estate. You don't buy the short term. How many do you own?
Well, still 2.
Still 2.
I was working on a third one, but...
So most of your monetary gains you have ever earned in your life right now are put in 30-year plan in your 2 apartments. I also own one. And I don't feel like I'm going to lose that. I don't feel like that's a bad plan to invest. Investors look at Estonia, oh, next to Russia. I don't want to invest. And then I feel like I have to protect my country and start to explain away the Russian threats, which is it feels stupid.
I will be more concerned about the high Euribor rate that we have. that's the reason I've been not buying the third apartment yet, because the Euribor is just too high now. So I don't want to buy it.
The interest is too high. That's
the interest rates are like
not Russia,
crazy,
but the interest. That's the worst thing.
But not connected to Russia. It's just connected to the global financial crisis. Also, the fact that our economy is not doing that well.
But that topic is very important because investors are turning away. Recently, the factory that went to France, for example, almost 1 billion. Went away from Estonia because of the security situation, and
yes, but then the amount of foreign direct investments to Estonia have been increasing. So it's also partly the fact that media tends to report about the. I don't want to blame anyone in this. I don't want to sound like media is.
I can do that because I'm not connected. Media is selling fear, and it's really bad.
Media is doing their job. They're reporting on the statistics, on the facts, on the bankruptcy cases. Especially when some bigger major investments like the recent investment of 800 million went to Latvia happened. This is something they have to do. But again, then I also read the news that foreign direct investment, the amount of FDIs coming to Estonia, has not been affected by the war that much. So
really?
It's been increasing.
Even after the full-scale invasion, still increasing.
It's still increasing. Yeah, I mean, people still invest in Estonia. It's just that there are single-case scenarios where people, something happens. I mean, we've been also having these situations in the past as well, before the war, that for some reasons or tax reasons, economy reasons, whatever, culture reasons, whatever, some corporations, organizations, or someone decides to invest somewhere else, not to Estonia, and then we kind of think that it's because of the war. No. On a global scale, everything is okay. We're also trying to improve our economy now, trying to bring more investments to Estonia, trying to bring more corporations, more organizations, business to Estonia. That is something that diplomats all over the world, Estonian diplomats all over the world, been engaged in in the past year or so. And this is the instruction that we've been receiving too from our capital, that now in times when our economy is not doing that great, it's our inflation rate was one of the highest, if not the highest in Europe, I guess, and the economic growth is also one of the slowest now in Europe, which is pretty bad.
Honestly, I would say it's strange. Estonia is, per GDP, we're one of the biggest countries that support Ukraine per GDP percentage, and we're also the biggest country that suffers because we cannot sell to Russia anymore. Huge portion of our monetary gains came from Belarus and Russia. We cut that off because we have deportations in Stalin times. We remember that. There's no problem with us. Cut it off. We don't want the Soviet past. But we lost a huge amount of money with that.
We did.
Insane amount of money.
But we have to practice what we preach.
Yeah.
If we are the spokespeople for Ukraine in Europe, if we are someone to fight for using the frozen assets of Russia, fighting for the accountability of Russians, for not doing business with Russia, for completely isolating Russia as a punishment for the aggression that they conduct against Ukrainians, Russian Federation, Russian government, then we have to practice this what we preach ourselves. So that's why we've been cutting all the ties with Russia as well. So of course it's very difficult. And many people are not satisfied with this, but this is the only way how to do it, and this is the right way to do.
And many people say in the comments also, okay, Europe is so dependent on Russia, Estonia is so dependent on Russia. What are you going to do without the Russian market? The truth is, yes, we are hurting. It's hurting us bad, and we know this, and we choose this. So this sends a very clear message that we choose the pain because the other option is much worse. We've been there, so people who are saying, look, I get the comments, I have to read them. So I'm like, I wanna open this up. That we're aware of how much we lose. We're aware of the inflation. We're aware of what we sacrifice, and we choose to do it still.
Well, I would say that, when someone has a hostage, even Hamas is also feeding their hostages, with their food, and saying that, oh, please, respect us as terrorists because we feed you. That's a very implausible logic here, So we can also apply the same logic to Russia too. I mean, the fact that Russia is, providing us with the gas, with oil, doesn't mean that it's that it's the only way how we can operate, and that's the only neighbor and the only country we can work with, because it's known that Russia has been manipulating this, and Russia has been using, the economy, oil, gas, and all the resources and the trade for the geopolitical benefits. For example, threatening countries to cut off from the gas supply, threatening countries with cutting off oil supplies, with cutting off trade, whatever. So if you're trying to hold your neighbors as hostages with what you provide, with the trade, with everything, so how can we trust you? Mm-hmm. So this is something we've been trying to explain to other friends of ours, allies of ours, that we can't trust the partner that's using, the trade, using the resources as the means of politics, geopolitics, so directly.
For the longest time, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania were the clapping Pomeranians, the barking dogs, the Russophobes of Europe. Nobody listened really. But then the full-scale invasion started, and now this truth is being spread to Central Europe and also Southern Europe. I kind of want to say this. We were right all the time.
We were, yeah. And I'm just happy that, our voice is heard in this regard. That European Union, they know who to listen to. And Estonia is being quite vocal, especially in the wake of war against Ukraine. And we've been pretty clear in our messages as well, what we have to do, what we should do, coming up with the plans, what to do, how to realize this, how to punish Russia for what they did, what to do, what steps to take to mitigate the impact of war, and how to bring Ukraine to victory. For example, now we are signing the bilateral agreement with Ukraine that we will support Ukraine with 0.25% of our GDP. And this is something we've been also trying to push with our allies, that if we all sign this agreement, if we all contribute at least 0.25% of our GDP to Ukraine, to humanitarian and military means, they will not have any problems with their supplies, with their military and with their humanitarian supplies, and they will be able to do much more than they're doing now against Russia.
Estonia is punching well above its weight in the diplomatic sphere, in the military sphere, with the GDP, everything percentage. For our size, what we give is a lot more compared to some bigger countries. And also that is partly responsible to young diplomats like you, actually. I've been getting these commentaries because in the United States, the mediocre age of a politician or a diplomatic is like 40 years, 50 years. How old are you?
The average age of diplomats, consuls in Israel is 27. Because there's just one.
You one and only, yeah.
No, but I'm actually the youngest. I'm also the youngest consul, as far as I'm aware, at least in the European Union, among EU countries there represented in Israel.
Whoa!
Because and every meeting I attend, I've stopped, asking for the age of people, because I know I'm the youngest there. That's for sure.
That's always a positive, always complimentary when a country has young diplomats, young politicians.
It is complimentary, but then also people see that maybe sometimes you don't have experience in some fields compared to some more senior colleagues. You also have to establish yourself more as a young person, as a young diplomat. But it's because a lot of things in diplomacy comes with experience. A lot of knowledge comes with the experience, a lot of awareness of how to do, what to say, where to say, with whom to talk, with whom not to talk. It also comes with the experience. So this is the diplomacy, as a social thing. It's very difficult to learn it. It's very difficult to learn it like maths, for example, or geography or physics. You can't learn it. You just have to practice it. You just have to go there, talk to people, do it, learn about the country, about the diplomacy, about whatever. And then you become more and more experienced, more and more knowledgeable, and then with this, a better diplomat.
Can I ask, what is the biggest mistake you have made in your diplomatic career in Israel? If you can't tell about it. If you can't, that's fine also.
Well, there have been a few. Once I almost made friends with a Belarusian diplomat, but that was an accident. Because, well, there's a policy in Estonia and also in the European Union that we don't engage with Russian and Belarusian diplomats. And this is, I guess, also known to the other part as well, to Russians and Belarusians too, that we can't officially engage with them, we can't shake hands with them, we can't talk to them, and in any other way show kind of the familiarity, or like show that we are accepting them as socially accepting them at the events or at the receptions. I know some of my colleagues, one of the country, our closest ally, they have a policy that when they have Russian diplomats, when they attend the event, and then there's a Russian diplomat or someone, ambassador, whoever, and then they even have to leave the event and also approach the host and say that we are leaving because we can't share the same venue or the same event with Russian diplomats that are responsible for the aggression against Ukraine.
Cool.
And for the violation of so many rights and so many things in Ukraine. We didn't go that far, but we're quite close. So we don't engage with Russian diplomats and Belarusian ones. So there was once an event that I attended in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where I saw my colleague from one country standing there, that I knew that he's working at that embassy, but I didn't know him personally. So I was like, okay, let's go and meet him. And there was also standing another colleague from whichever embassy I didn't know at that time. So I shook the hand of the colleague that I meant to meet. So Robert, deputy and consul from the Estonian embassy. So I handed him my card, and he handed me his, and put it in my pocket. And then I approached the girl, and I was like, okay, yes, the same thing. Also took my card. I saw that she took hers already. I shook her hand. He was like, Robert, deputy and the consul of the Estonian embassy. And then she was like, my name's Belarusian embassy. I'm like, oh, great, amazing, wonderful.
That's
and then she already handed in her card, and like it's very difficult in that situation. So what are you gonna do in this situation? We can't. I mean, it's very weird to create a socially awkward situation to just take off your hand, just kind of demonstratively walk away, from the diplomat, so on and so forth. So in this situation, you have to just stay calm, and you just have to accept the faith. So I was like, yeah, great, amazing. And I even said, nice to meet you, but it was more automatic than, thought through. So this is something I tell to everyone, nice to meet you, but I didn't mean this, of course. But because diplomats are they're representing the government. They're directly responsible for what they preach or what they say. And they know what they're doing. You can't say that I'm a diplomat, I represent the government of this particular country, but I don't share these values, because you're saying this, you're speaking with the words of these values.
You cannot say nice to meet you to Belarus, it's not possible.
There are many good Belarusians, actually, Belarusian Jews in Israel, amazing people, but people in Israel, people from Russia and Belarus and Ukraine, they don't go to Israel, they don't come to Israel mostly because of a good life. Some of the people, and most of the people actually, they come because they're either persecuted, they have some problems there, they're facing some difficulties, foreign agents, whatever. So I've met a lot of people who immigrated to Israel and made Aliyah, how's it called? It's for those who have Jewish heritage and want to kind of get back or immigrate back to the homeland. So they do this, and they started doing this after the war. A lot of them do this because, they disagree with the politics of Russia or Belarus, and that they want to, change the atmosphere and change the country. But finishing the story. So this is, in this situation, you just, you kind of, I told that, nice to meet you, but I want to grab a drink, so I'll go. She was like, okay. So that was the shortest conversation I've ever had in Israel.
How did she?
10 seconds or something.
What did she do?
She was like, no, I mean, I found an excuse. I said, actually, by the way, I'm going to grab a wine or something. I'm going to be back. never went there, but I somehow lost myself with some other people, talking to them. So but I made sure that I was waiting until the colleague from other embassy, he got free, or I found him alone, standing alone, and then I approached him again and explained the situation. But yeah, I mean, no one is protected from these situations. The only thing is that you don't do this on purpose. You don't engage diplomats on purpose. If it's done, accidentally, that's fine.
There were no repercussions?
Well, my salary got decreased, and I got a warning, and they almost threw me out of the embassy. But
no,
of course not. No, no. We had a good laugh with the ambassador about this. Yeah, I was telling the situation. He was just laughing. He was like, "Yeah, first time experience." But it was my first time, when I kind of felt that I did this faux pas. That's against the lines that we have been taking. But I mean, it's in the end, it's very humane to You never know in which situation you're gonna find yourself. What matters is how you solve it, how you react in this situation. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to do any kind of trouble, I didn't want to ruin the event, kind of do or become emotional or whatever. I reacted normally and kind of found.
You're Estonian after all, so.
Yes, I remained with my poker face and just grab a wine and then distanced
hate silently.
Another part of the room, yes.
Yeah.
I observed from the distance.
And wait for the right moment to stab.
Yeah. But other than that, we don't. It's very difficult to be or to find yourself in these kind of harsh situations or harsh environment, because you more or less know where you go. You more or less know who's part of the event. You more or less know what to say, what the event is dedicated to. So it's as long as you're not too drunk, we start telling about your exes, like very sad stories and psychotraumas.
I've heard that from you.
Well, this is not something how we advance Estonian diplomacy there. We rather prefer talking about unicorns, startups, how bright future Estonia has, the most developed post-Soviet country.
Skype.
Yes, 99% of.
How long are we gonna ride on Skype? I mean, it was an hour.
So it's sold. We don't own it anymore.
What the hell?
They have some headquarters, some offices here, but it's not in ours anymore. Now we have Wise. Wise a new Skype.
Yeah, yes. Exactly.
This is something I've been promoting to people.
We sold that also.
E-residency. Everyone who's applying for e-residency, really good thing. You can do your business in Estonia online from whichever part of the world, even from Bahamas or whatever.
Big money come, no work, easy.
And then when you get your e-residency card, we recommend also opening your Wise account, because with this it's easier to do taxation in Estonia.
I remember you have told me actually many times some funny stories. So this is the last question. The last question is a juicy one. What is like the memorable story with diplomats of North Korea? Why do they stand out? What do they do?
The only place where I've seen, I actually had the privilege of seeing North Korean diplomats in person when I was working in the Human Rights Bureau before assuming my position in Israel. I was in Geneva. And that was the place where I actually saw North Korean diplomats, because we were sitting, as Estonia, we were sitting at a table. Then two seats from us was Russia, because this was set according to French alphabetical order. So Estonie and then Fédération de Russie, it's right after E. And they were sitting right next to us. And then North Koreans were sitting somewhere behind. But that was the only place where I saw North Korean diplomats. And I remember that their only purpose, they never attended any meetings, any kind of plenary sessions of negotiating different topics and resolutions. But the only time they came when something was concerning North Korea, something about democracy, something about the rule of law, whatever. Then their ambassador came, delivered the speech, blamed the US, blamed the whole Western system, how flawed it is, how great the communism is, how everyone is prospering in the communism. We as post-Soviet, unfortunately post-Soviet country know this very well, how we prospered, especially in the 40s, 50s. 20,000 people found themselves in Siberia, but we'll talk about this. But anyway, And that's it. That's all they do, as far as I'm concerned. They deliver their speeches, they blame everyone, and then instead of listening to what we have to say, they just stand up and they just go.
After the speech, immediately go.
Yeah. But many diplomats do
Rude.
that, actually. That's because this human rights sessions, they take place 3 times per year, 2 to 3 weeks longs. Now even 4 weeks longs, and every day you have like sessions from morning to evening, like different sessions on different topics. So it's very tiring to sit there and listen to it and then report and then also deliver speeches. But what we have to do this because we are the eyes and ears of our country, wherever we are, in Geneva, in New York, in Tel Aviv, in Kiev. We're reporting. And this is what we produce in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We produce the memos, the reports about the situation. So, but yeah, North Korean diplomats, they delivered speeches and blasted everyone and then went away.
Scumbags. Well, thank you for representing Estonia. Thank you for representing our interests and being such an awesome diplomat, honestly, and coming to the show also. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Last words to the listeners.
We're gonna lift the travel advice, the negative travel advice, very soon. So come to Tel Aviv. Summer is pretty hot, but in September, October, it's very nice. Central Israel is actually very safe. It's not that dangerous. It's not dangerous at all. I mean, in case the northern front will not be opened and the war will not escalate to the north, then Tel Aviv is an amazing place to live at. It's a long beach there. It's always 30 plus degrees. It's sunny. People are surfing there. Big waves. The water is more salty seawater than in Baltic Sea. Also many interesting attractions. Jerusalem is a complete separate gem. So if the war will not escalate, then I would suggest anyone to travel to Israel at least once in their life and see everything for themselves.
Thank you.
Thanks.